A car company most people in the West have never heard of, just built a vehicle that drives 1,400 kilometers without stopping at a charging station. It can spin a full 360 degrees on its own axis, without moving forward or backward even an inch. And it is coming out of China. Not America, not Germany, not Japan. The brands that have dominated off-roading for the past 50 years. The ones with the big logos, the thundering V8 engines, and the 100-year histories, are now playing catch-up to a company most people in the West could not have named 2 years ago. This is the Jetour Traveler 8. And the gap between this machine and the best off-roaders from the United States and Europe is not a minor spec difference. It is a completely different way of thinking about what a wheel, a motor, and a road trip actually mean. To truly understand what the Traveler 8 has done, you first need to understand what it is replacing. Because the off-road industry has been running the same basic recipe for a very, very long time. Every classic trail-capable vehicle, whether it is a Jeep Wrangler, a Toyota Land Cruiser, a Ford Bronco, or a Land Rover Defender, works the same way at its core. A big engine, usually a V8 or a turbocharged 6-cylinder, burns fuel and spins a transmission. The transmission passes that spinning force to a transfer case. The transfer case splits the power between the front axle and the rear axle. The axles spin the wheels. That is it. That is the whole system. For most of automotive history, getting better at off-roading just meant making a more powerful version of that same system. Stronger axles, bigger engine, heavier frame, more metal connecting everything together. The philosophy was simple. If the terrain is tough, be tougher. If the mud is deep, have more power. If the rocks are sharp, have stronger parts. Brute force was the answer to every question. And for decades, that worked brilliantly. These vehicles built legendary reputations by surviving conditions that would destroy ordinary cars. The Land Cruiser crossed deserts. The Wrangler crawled over boulder fields. The Defender conquered terrain that had no roads at all. These are genuinely impressive machines, and the engineers who built them deserve enormous credit. But here is the problem that nobody in the traditional off-road world wanted to talk about out loud. The brute force approach has a ceiling. At some point, adding more weight and more mechanical complexity stops making a vehicle more capable and starts making it slower to respond, harder to fix, and more expensive to build. A system full of gears, shafts, and differentials is a system full of things that can break when you hit a rock at the wrong angle on a remote trail. Engineering analysis of traditional drivetrain failures consistently shows that the mechanical connection points, the differentials, the transfer cases, the drive shafts, are where failures concentrate under extreme off-road stress. The Western automotive industry spent decades refining this system, and they got very good at it. But refining an old system and reinventing it from the ground up are two completely different things. While the West was busy refining, Jetour was busy reinventing. The single most radical thing about the Traveler 8 is also the hardest to wrap your head around at first. This vehicle has no mechanical axles connecting the left and right wheels. None. They are gone. And what replaced them is the reason this machine can do things no traditional off-roader has ever been able to do. Instead of one engine feeding power through a network of shafts and differentials to all four wheels, the Traveler 8 uses 4 completely independent electric motors. 1 motor per wheel, each one entirely dedicated to the single wheel it controls. They do not share a mechanical connection with each other. They do not depend on each other to work. Each wheel is its own independent system. Each of those 4 motors produces 250 kilowatts of power on its own. Add all 4 together, and you get a combined output of 1,280 horsepower. To put that number in real terms, a Porsche 911 Turbo S, one of the most celebrated performance cars on the planet, produces around 650 horsepower, according to Porsche's official specifications. The Traveler 8 produces nearly double that figure, in a large 7-seat off-road SUV that weighs significantly more than a sports car. That power allows the Traveler 8 to launch from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 3 seconds flat. A number that would have seemed physically impossible for a vehicle this size just 5 years ago. But raw speed is not the reason this vehicle matters. The real story is what 4 independent motors allow the car to do when the ground underneath each wheel is completely different from the others. And out on a real off-road trail, that situation comes up constantly. Think about a rocky mountain trail where your front left tire is sitting on a solid flat ledge while your rear right tire is spinning in loose wet gravel. In any traditional off-roader, power has to travel through the same mechanical pathway to reach all 4 wheels. When one wheel loses traction and starts spinning freely, it can actually steal power away from the wheels that do have grip. Drivers manage this with locking differentials and careful throttle control. But it is always a manual, imprecise process. In the Traveler 8, the vehicle's computer is monitoring the grip level at every single one of those 4 wheels hundreds of times per second. The instant it detects one wheel slipping, it reduces the power going to that wheel and sends more to the ones with traction. No driver input needed, no switch to flip. It happens in milliseconds with a level of precision that no human hand could ever match. That system is the core reason this vehicle can destroy trails that would leave traditional off-roaders stuck, and it is the foundation that makes the next feature, the one that genuinely looks like a magic trick, actually work. When General Motors launched the Hummer EV and showed off its crabwalk feature, it was a genuine moment of excitement in the automotive world. The ability to move a massive truck diagonally, all 4 wheels angled in the same direction, was clever, visually impressive, and genuinely useful in tight situations. Jetour's engineers looked at that feature and decided it was only the beginning. The Traveler 8 uses an advanced rear-wheel steering system, where the rear wheels can rotate up to 10 degrees in either direction. That alone would make it one of the most maneuverable large SUVs ever built, dramatically reducing the turning circle and making tight trails far less stressful to navigate. But the quad-motor setup transforms that rear steering from impressive to extraordinary. Because each wheel has its own dedicated motor, the computer can spin the 2 wheels on the left side of the car in one direction, while simultaneously spinning the 2 wheels on the right side in the completely opposite direction. Left side goes forward, right side goes backward, at exactly the same time. The result is a full 360-degree rotation, perfectly in place, without the vehicle moving forward or backward even slightly. It turns on its own center point, like a spinning top, right there on the trail. You might think that sounds like a showroom stunt designed to impress people at auto shows. But think carefully about the real-world situation where this actually matters. You are 2 hours deep on a narrow backcountry trail. The track is barely wider than the car. There is a solid rock face on one side and a steep drop on the other. The trail ends. There is no clearing, no turnaround, no space to reverse and angle your way around. In a traditional off-roader, that scenario is genuinely dangerous. You might have to reverse down a narrow, uneven trail for a very long distance, hoping you do not slip off the edge. In the Traveler 8, you simply rotate the car on its own axis and drive back the way you came. That is the difference between a vehicle built to look tough and a vehicle built to solve real problems that real off-roaders actually face in the field. But all of this, the quad motors, the spinning capability, the raw horsepower, it would mean absolutely nothing if the vehicle ran out of power in the middle of a remote trail with no charging station within 100 miles. That specific fear is the single biggest reason hardcore off-roaders have stayed loyal to combustion engines. And it is a completely rational fear. Serious off-roading takes you into places that are completely off the grid. Remote desert crossings, dense forest trails, high mountain passes. These are places where DC fast chargers do not exist. Cell service often does not exist. The nearest paved road might be 2 hours of rough driving away. In that environment, a vehicle that cannot guarantee its own energy supply is not just inconvenient. It is a liability. The current generation of Western electric off-roaders has not fully solved this problem. A Rivian R1T or a Hummer EV will deliver impressive performance in the right conditions, but their total usable range drops significantly when you are crawling through mud, climbing steep inclines, and running all your electrical accessories simultaneously. Rivian's own range data shows meaningful reductions under heavy off-road use compared to highway driving. And when that battery gets low in a remote location, your options are extremely limited. Jetour built a direct answer to this exact problem into the Traveler 8 at the design level. Not as an afterthought. The vehicle uses a system called an extended range electric vehicle architecture. The name is technical. The idea is beautifully simple. Hidden inside the Traveler 8, there is a gasoline engine. But here is the crucial thing that makes this completely different from a traditional hybrid. That engine has zero mechanical connection to the wheels. It never drives the car. It never touches the motors directly. Its one and only job is to burn fuel and generate electricity, which then feeds directly into the battery and keeps the 4 electric motors running. Think of it as a private power station riding along inside the vehicle. When the battery level starts to drop, the generator quietly wakes up, burns a small amount of fuel at its most efficient operating speed, and tops the battery back up. The motors keep running. The car keeps going. The driver barely notices anything has changed. This means you get the full performance of a 1,280 horsepower electric drivetrain on the trail. Instant torque, perfectly precise traction control, the 360-degree spinning capability. But with the backup reliability of a fuel engine, you can refill at any gas station anywhere in the world. With a fully charged battery and a full tank of fuel working together, the Traveler 8 covers 1,400 kilometers. That is roughly 870 miles. The distance from New York City to Chicago is approximately 1,370 kilometers. The Traveler 8 could make that drive and still have range left to explore when it arrived. And when you finally park up at your campsite after a full day on the trail, the vehicle can power your entire camp. Built-in vehicle-to-load capability lets you plug electric grills, floodlights, heaters, and portable fridges directly into the car and run them for hours without the combustion engine ever needing to start. That combination, serious electric performance on the trail, real-world fuel backup, and a camping power supply built in, is something no single Western off-roader currently offers in one complete package. The Traveler 8 did not just improve on the electric off-roader formula. It replaced the formula entirely. But a vehicle this advanced does not exist in a vacuum. It is the product of a much bigger shift happening in the automotive world right now. And understanding that shift explains why this is not a one-off achievement. For roughly a century, the rules of what made a great off-road vehicle were written by a small group of companies. Jeep in the United States, Land Rover in the United Kingdom, Mercedes-Benz in Germany, Toyota in Japan. These brands defined the benchmarks. They set the standard for what capability, durability, and premium quality meant in the off-road world, and they charged accordingly, often demanding six-figure prices for vehicles built on technology that had not fundamentally changed in decades. That arrangement worked for a very long time, because no serious competitor came along with a genuinely different approach. Competitors would launch new off-roaders, but they were always working within the same framework. Better version of the same axles, more powerful version of the same engine, stronger version of the same frame. Nobody threw out the entire rulebook. What is happening in the Chinese automotive industry right now is something categorically different. Brands like Jetour, BYD, NIO, and Li Auto are not trying to build slightly better versions of Western vehicles. They are approaching vehicle design the way the technology industry approaches software. Start from scratch. Test fast. Launch new iterations quickly. Update the system over time. Treat the vehicle not as a finished mechanical object, but as a platform that keeps improving. The architecture platform underneath the Traveler 8 is a perfect example of this thinking. It is not just the mechanical foundation of one vehicle. It is a scalable digital and mechanical system that can be updated, improved, and built upon over multiple generations. In the same way a smartphone gets meaningfully better through software updates without you buying a new phone, this platform can evolve in ways that traditional mechanical architectures simply cannot match. Meanwhile, some of the most established names in the off-road world are still working through development cycles that take 5 to 7 years from concept to production. By the time a legacy brand finalizes a new platform, tests it through regulatory requirements across dozens of markets, and gets it to dealerships, a Chinese competitor may have already launched, updated, and launched again. That speed advantage, combined with the willingness to completely rethink fundamental assumptions about how a vehicle should work, is what produced the 1,400-kilometer, 4-motor, self-spinning machine that made you click on this video. And it is producing a whole wave of vehicles behind it that will continue pushing these benchmarks forward. Now step back and look at what the Traveler 8 actually offers as a single complete package. 1,280 horsepower, from 4 independent motors that have no mechanical differentials to snap on a rock. A 360-degree tank turn that rescues you from situations that would strand a traditional off-roader permanently. An extended range system that eliminates the battery anxiety that has kept fuel engine loyalists from trusting electric vehicles in the backcountry. And a total range of 1,400 kilometers that covers more ground than most off-road trips will ever demand. No single vehicle from any legacy Western brand currently puts all of those capabilities together in one package. Some offer great range, some offer great capability, some offer impressive power. But the combination, the complete package, is where the Traveler 8 stands alone right now. The legacy brands have a genuine opportunity to respond. They have enormous resources. They have engineering talent that should not be underestimated. They have customer bases that trust them and would follow them into a new era of off-road capability if they led the way with conviction. But the window to respond is real, and windows do not stay open forever. The pace of development in the Chinese automotive industry means that by the time a traditional brand finishes its response to the Traveler 8, the next generation of this platform may already be on the road. The companies that treat this as a genuine wake-up call and move fast will be the ones that matter in the off-road world 10 years from now. The ones that treat it as a temporary curiosity from an unfamiliar brand may find themselves in a very difficult position. The Traveler 8 is proof that the biggest leaps in off-road capability are no longer going to come from making old ideas heavier and stronger. They are going to come from completely rethinking what those old ideas were actually trying to achieve, and then building something entirely new that achieves it better in every measurable way. The new benchmark has been set, not in Detroit, not in Solihull, not in Stuttgart, in China. And the off-road world will look back at this machine as the moment everything started to change. So here is the question worth sitting with. Would you actually trust this Chinese electric tank on a hardcore trail far from civilization? Or are you still standing by your V8? There is no wrong answer. Drop your honest take in the comments. If this video gave you something to think about, hit like and subscribe, because the next big shift in the automotive world is already in development, and we will cover it the moment it arrives.